Hi everyone, and welcome back to another session of ISTQB training, Test Automation Engineer Certification. As we have already covered Module 1 and Module 2, today we'll be going through few practice questions for these two modules. There are two ways you can try to attempt these questions. I've also uploaded a Word document file in our Facebook group file section, so you can try to attempt questions over there, and then to confirm the answers you can go through this video, or you can pause the video after every question, try to attempt it, and then confirm your answer. So it's up to you how you want to attempt these questions. Okay, so the first section has a K2 learning objective, which is explain the objectives, advantages, disadvantages, and limitations of test automation. So in this certification, usually a K2 question means that it will be generally comprised of 1 point. And from this section, one question definitely will be coming. So let's have a look at the first question. In automation, testware is necessary for, and the options are, implementing automated test cases, monitoring and controlling the execution of automated tests, interpreting, reporting, and logging the automated test results, and all of the above. Okay, so I'm sure by now we are quite clear about what a testware is. So testware can be anything. It can be any artifact, any material which is used or which is required to perform testing. It can include test cases, test data, test plan, etc. Okay, so if we go through the first three options, all these three are the correct options. So that's why we'll go with D, which is all of the above. Continuing with the same learning objective, the second question is, which of the following is considered to be a disadvantage of test automation? And the options are A, tests are less subject to operator error, the possibility to create tests that cannot be done manually, focusing on automating test cases at the expense of executing tests, systems reliability is improved. Okay, so let's go through the first one. Tests are less subject to operator error. It is more of a like an advantage rather than disadvantage. So of course A will be the incorrect. Option B is the possibility to create tests that cannot be done manually. So that's another advantage. So it can't be a disadvantage. C is focusing on automating test cases at the expense of executing tests. Yes, that looks like more of a disadvantage. The reason is because automation of test cases definitely is a benefit, but if it's preventing you from executing your planned test cases, then it's more of a like a overhead, because it's not letting you the main job which you want to do, which is execution of the test cases. So if you are spending a lot of time, a lot of effort in automating the test cases, and due to that you're not able to finish your testing or not execute the test, then instead of advantage it becomes a disadvantage. So this is the right option, but let's have a look at the last option as well. Systems reliability is improved. Okay, so that's another advantage rather than disadvantage. So we'll go ahead with option C. Okay, moving ahead, the next learning objective is another K2, which means it will be 1 point. And yes, from this section, there will be one question coming. So this is identify technical success factors of a test automation project. Okay, and the question is, according to ISO IEC 25000-2014, test automation architecture TAA is designed for performance, maintainability, learnability, all of the above. Okay, so in this syllabus, we will not be going in detail of this standard. We just need to know that this is a standard which is a kind of guidance for the use of the new series of international standards named systems and software quality requirements and evaluation. So we don't need to go much into detail, but it does talk about all quality characteristics, which does include all the first three: performance, maintainability, and learnability. So the correct option will be D, all of the above. Moving on, in the same learning objective, we have question number 4. Testable parts of SUT should be targeted for automation in which order? Last, first. C is order doesn't matter. Okay, so whenever we have a system under test, there will be few parts which might be available for testing first rather than the other ones. And one of the key factor in the test automation success, it is at the ease of the implementation of automated test scripts. So while this goal in mind, and also to provide a successful proof of concept, a test automation engineer needs to identify the components or modules of the system under test which can be easily tested with automation and should start from there, which means that B is the correct option. The next one, now we have a learning objective K4. Analyze a system under test to determine the appropriate automation solution. Okay, so a K4 question is generally allocated 3 points. So from this section, there will be 2 questions coming in the exam, and each will be of 3 points. So the first question is from this section. A complex system has been built mostly within an organization named X. Part of the system consists of software developed by a third party named Y. Now, X has developed a test automation solution which works well with the software they have developed internally. In terms of automation, which of the following is a better option to test software developed by Y? And the options are: Y may need a different automation solution. Y can be tested using the same automation solution as X. Testing Y can be skipped, assuming it might be tested by Y internally. And the fourth option is test automation solution should be modified to be able to test both X and Y. Okay, so now over here, okay, this is a very common scenario that a company has developed an automation solution to test the systems internally, and part of it was outsourced to a third party. They have developed it, but of course that needs testing as well. Okay, so now in order to automate that testing as well, which was developed by the third party, the first option is Y may need a different automation solution, which seems to be correct because it was not developed internally, it was developed by a third party, and the solution, the test automation solution which you developed for your organization might not apply to the software which was developed by a third party. Of course, if before they start working on it, if you were working on this aspect with the third party, then okay, it might be that the test automation solution should be the same, but it may need a different solution as well. So A seems to be the correct option, but let's go through the remaining options as well. B is Y can be tested using the same automation solution as X. Not necessary, because as I said that it's developed differently, maybe different technologies are used, and the architecture is different as well, so that's why B wouldn't be the right option. C is testing Y can be skipped, assuming it might be tested by Y internally. Yes, that's right, that when a third party develop any software, they do test it, but it doesn't mean that when it's handed over to you, you are not doing any kind of testing. Of course, some integration testing needs to be done, because eventually this will be part of your system, and if it's not working, then of course it affects your product. So C will be incorrect option, and D is test automation solution should be modified to be able to both X and Y. Okay, that's not a very good approach, because this means that then every time there is some different different software, then you always have to spend a lot of time to modify your test automation solution. Yes, test automation solution always needs some modification, some improvement. It needs to be evolved, but it shouldn't be just like scrapped, and we shouldn't be redoing the work. So from all these given options, A is the correct one. Okay, for the same learning objective, the next question, question number 6 is, CAPTCHA is implemented on a login page to determine whether the user is real or a spam robot. To automate testing of this feature, developers generated an API of CAPTCHA generation in test environment. Which of the following problem will be caused due to this high level of intrusion? Okay, so you must have seen that on many login pages there is a CAPTCHA option where either you have to enter a text given in the box, or there is a checkbox where it says I'm not a robot, and then you have to select some images from, I think, 9 images. You have to select the ones which have been asked you to select. Okay, so the options are: different test automation solution is required, complexity of SUT, risk for false alarms, increased cost due to changes in the system. Okay, so now first of all, let's have a look at what is high level of intrusion. So high level of intrusion is that there is a system, and in order to, so let's say that if you are manually testing login page, then of course it's not an issue to test CAPTCHA. But when you are automating, the purpose of CAPTCHA is to identify if it's a human doing this action, or it's just like a spam robot. So for that, if you want to automate the login page including the CAPTCHA functionality, then of course you need to make few changes. As it said in the question, to automate testing of this feature, developers generated an API of CAPTCHA generation in test environment, which means that that change was done only in test environment in order to automate the functionality of that feature. Okay, so which means that we had to make changes which are only applicable for test environment and not in the real environment. So this is high level of intrusion, and when we do high level of intrusion, its risk is false alarms. So C will be the right option. And what are false alarms? That if there is any issue which is reported during testing in test environment, we will not be sure that is that error because of the functionality which is being developed for that system, or is it because of the high level of intrusion, like the high number of changes which we did in order to automate that feature. So it might be false alarm because it might not be an issue in production. So C will be the correct option. The next learning objective is again K4, which is analyze test automation tools for a given project and report technical findings and recommendations. Okay, from this learning objective, from this section, there will be one question coming, and as it is a K4, it will be comprised of 3 points. Okay, so the question is, a test team has planned to introduce test automation. Various tools are evaluated to select the best suited tool for them. Though entire team is involved in the evaluation and selection process, who is primarily responsible for test tool selection? And the options are test automation engineer, test automation manager, software architect, and the last one is none of the above. Okay, so test automation engineer looks like a likely option, but test automation engineer usually is involved in supplying the information to the test automation manager and conducts many of the evaluation and selection activities, but at the end the main responsibility lies to test automation manager. So test automation manager responsibility is to see all the recommendations, all the evaluations, and then at the end decide that which tool needs to be selected. Software architect's job is more when we are designing the architecture of any test automation solution. So the correct option would be B, test automation manager. Okay, and the next question is, a new software needs to be installed for a project. There is a concern that new software might have a conflict with existing automation test tool. What can be a possible solution to avoid this issue? The first option is try to use only well-known software. Use a software which is compatible with all automation test tools. Get confirmation from the supplier that there will be no impact to other tools. Switching to manual testing. Okay, so from these options, option number C seems to be correct. And the reason is that whenever you are installing any new software for a project, you always need to see that how does it work with your existing tool stack, that will that be compatible with that or not. And the best way to check with is with the supplier, because you haven't purchased the software yet. So before you do the purchase, it's important to understand and get all the details from the supplier, let them know that what you are already using, so that you can then make a knowledgeable decision that to whether this new software will work for you or not, or will it be just creating another issue for you. So C is the correct option. Okay, now the next learning objective is K2, which is understand design for testability and design for automation methods applicable to the SUT. Okay, so as this is a K2, there will be 1 point per question, and from this section there will be 2 questions. So the first one is, which of the following is not a part of design for SUT testability? Observability, controllability, reliability, defined architecture. Okay, so we have studied that the 3 sections, 3 important parts for design for SUT testability are observability, controllability, and defined architecture. So C will be the incorrect option. And the last question is, designing for testability can benefit both manual and automated testing. True or false? Okay, so design for testability, we know that it's very beneficial for automated testing, but now the question is that is it beneficial for both manual and automated testing? And the answer is yes, because whenever we are looking for these 3 aspects which we just covered in the last question, like whether it's a defined architecture or it's controllability and observability, this is something which we require for testing, despite of the fact that whether it's a manual or automated testing. A good design of the test cases, etc., everything, the ability to be able to test a software under test is advantageous for both manual and automated testing. So the first option will be the right one, which is true. Okay, so with that, we come to the end of the practice questions for these 2 modules. So if we just have a recap of these 2 sections. So from the first section, from the first module, we get 2 questions always in the exam, and from the second module, we get 5 questions. And if we merge the points, then we get 13 points from module 1 and module 2. So if we prepare module 1 and module 2 really well, then we can already get 11 points from that, and the total number of points for this entire exam are 75. So I hope that you have found this useful, and will try to attempt these questions as well. So in next session, now we will continue with module 3, and till then, take care. I hope you have found this module useful, and with this session we have covered this module. So in next section we will be doing some practice questions for module 1 and 2, and then we will continue to module 3. So I'll see you in the next session then. Till then, take care.